I think in order for other nations to understand what has actually gone wrong with education in Scotland, it's worth looking at the experience through a series of questions. And the first question is, what preceded the curriculum for excellence and did it work? Scottish education before CFE was split into three parts. We had the 3 to 5 curriculum, the 5 to 14, which was the board general education, and then we had the national qualifications, and they were made up of standard grades, intermediates, and higher examinations. Was the system perfect? No, no system ever is. Was it fit for purpose? Yes, it was. And in fact, Peter Peacock, the then Minister for Education and Young People in 2004, actually stated on record, the curriculum in Scotland has many strengths. It is well respected and the national qualification structure have been carefully designed to meet the needs of pupils at different stages. And Mr. Peacock was correct. The exam system was structured to allow even those of the lowest ability, for example, what we used to call a foundation general student, to leave school having completed a 2-year course, an internal assessment, and 2 formal examinations that were externally assessed in about several subjects, giving them credible qualifications to go on to college and employment. I'm going to contrast that today with the replacement qualification for those students, which is a National 4 qualification. And this is a 1-year course with a handful of in-house marked assessments and no formal exams whatsoever, in an average about 4 to 5 subjects. So the first lesson that can be learned, this is just one example where the actual reality on the ground is a far cry from the government's rhetoric of raising standards, which they said was to close the poverty-related attainment gap, prepare children and young people for their future. That was the key aim of the implementation of Curriculum for Excellence and the justification for complete change. Question 2. So who and what drove the change? Well, in 2002, the Labour McConnell-led government held a national debate. And whilst at the same time Mr. Peacock was praising the existing system, he insisted that the Scottish people had overwhelmingly wanted a different curriculum that would fully prepare the children for adult life in the 21st century, be less crowded and better connected and offer more choice and enjoyment. Well, as you can see from the example I've just given you, the polar opposite happened for those ability students. So after the public debate, national debate, the government set up a curriculum review group in 2003. And the remit for this group was not to write a curriculum. It was to identify the purposes of education, something that is very, very different. And this is where the origins of Curriculum for Excellence is often misunderstood. In fact, when you're talking about Curriculum for Excellence, you need to differentiate between the two. There is the paper, the document produced in 2004 by the Curriculum Review Group, and then there is the curriculum that was launched in 2010. The 2004 document was only 8 pages long. And Keir Bloomer, he was one of the original participants in the review group, explained that it didn't have detailed content and it was more of a mission statement. It certainly was not a curriculum. But then what happened was the Labour government set up a new curriculum review group and did not ask any of the original participants to sit on the new group. And as Keir Bloomer actually noted himself, this was done with people much more dominated traditional figures from within the Scottish education establishment. So for those wielding power, Labour, and then from 2007 it was the SNP, this newly formed development group created an opportunity to use Curriculum for Excellence as a vehicle to shape the education system, to fit and enforce their political agenda. And as Kate has explained really well, the hijacking of education in Scotland is continuing at pace. There is immense pressure from activist groups, quangos, and the government itself to mould the curriculum by embedding a range of ideologies into every thread of learning. which risks eroding the accuracy and the credibility in what is being taught. So lesson number 2, create and maintain an evidence-based curriculum free from political and ideological bias, where open discussions about controversial subjects are actively encouraged, thereby avoiding what can arguably be seen as indoctrination as opposed to education. Question 3. What happened after the launch of Curriculum for Excellence? Well, there was a lot of clarity, despite the number of long guidance documents of what and how to teach. But the direction was to declutter the curriculum, and the emphasis was moved from knowledge-based to a skills-based curriculum. And it was becoming obvious that teachers were struggling. So in 2015, I was teaching at a secondary school, and we were advised in our first term that a number of our S1s, which are our secondary 1 students, had a significant low reading age, some as low as 7 years of age. At the same time, the international PISA results, which was the only international comparison assessment that Scotland was signed up to, was also reporting that standards in literacy and numeracy were declining. So lesson 3, because of the lack of clarity, the lack of direction, and the move away from knowledge to skills, from the onset, provide concise objectives supported by practical, realistic teaching methodologies that teachers understand and can be implemented in the planning process and actually delivered in the classroom. Thank you.